Today I'm going to tell you how Lincoln Riley has evaluated his quarterbacks, Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall. We're also going to get one college football coach's unfiltered take on how good or bad this Oklahoma team can be in 2018. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. So we're going to talk about Lincoln Riley's evaluation of Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall. But first, some news and notes you need to know. Starting with Oklahoma is already looking toward Army. And if you talk to Kerry Cooks about it, they've been thinking about Army since the spring. For those of you that don't know, Army is the scariest game on the schedule for me. The Black Knights run a triple option that averaged more than 360 yards rushing per game that led the nation. They also don't throw the ball a lot. They completed just 20 passes in 13 games, but that didn't stop them from going 10-3 last season. Now, the one thing that is cool about Army coming to Oklahoma is they're coming without Ahmad Bradshaw. Ahmad Bradshaw was the best player the Black Knights boast. He also played quarterback last season. They're going to be breaking in a new guy there. However, this ain't Tulane's triple option. Army is really good at running basically a flex bone, which is basically a wishbone. And Kerry Cooks and the defense have already started looking toward what they can do to try to counter it, saying, quote, "We were worried about Army back in the spring. The triple option is something. We had a few practices in the spring, through summer, and through fall camp to work it. You just don't see that. You don't understand the tempo of the option and how fast everything is going to come at you. It's definitely on our minds, and I'm sure we'll do some things during this fall camp so the kids are at least seeing it 2 or 3 times instead of waiting until the game week to see the triple option." I like the sound of it, and I also would like to see Kyler Murray maybe doing some scout team running some triple option, maybe bring in Barry Switzer to coach it up a little bit. As a matter of fact, why not just bring in Barry Switzer for that entire week and then maybe, keep him on? Because it would be kind of cool to see Kyler Murray, Rodney Anderson, Trey Sermon and the gang run the triple option, run the wishbone at Oklahoma. This is the quarterback to do it with. And we're going to talk more about Kyler Murray and possibly some more triple option in a little bit. So Baker Mayfield's NFL debut was really good. I mean, honestly, Brian Baldinger called it one of the best rookie debuts he's ever seen by a quarterback. I mean, that tweet says it all right there. But if you didn't get to watch the game, Baker went 11 of 20 for 212 yards with 2 TDs, including one in the fourth quarter that was a slant that turned into a 54-yard touchdown. I already really like what Baker Mayfield and Antonio Callaway could be, but David Njoku, not to be confused with Njobu, who ended up with Panther claws in his chest,
Is this your king?
was another guy that demonstrated what kind of weapons are in Cleveland now. Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway, David Njoku, and if they can get this running back situation sorted out, they're going to be good because both quarterbacks were awesome in their debut against the New York Giants as Browns. Tyrod Taylor looked the part, played the part. Baker Mayfield was vintage Baker Mayfield, so much so that Buckeyes fans are reluctantly joining the Baker Mayfield bandwagon, and I love it.
We told you this was gonna happen.
The offensive line did not look so good. Of course, Baker Mayfield's used to playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the country, but Baker did what the 6'0" Savage does so well, which is move around in the pocket, wait for guys to get open, and hit them with strikes. Yes, there were some errant passes, but most of those came with lots of pressure on top of him. If you give Baker Mayfield time in the pocket, he's going to pick you apart, and every one of the timing throws that they put in there, he was on the money. You saw his back foot plant, and he went with the ball, and he hit somebody wide open or threw somebody open. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch whoever plays quarterback for Cleveland this year, and I think it's going to be Baker sooner than people think. The next thing you need to know is there's a linebacker that you haven't heard a lot about that apparently is turning some heads. According to Brandon Drum over at OUinsider.com, Deshaun White is battling to perhaps back up Kenneth Murray Jr. at the middle linebacker spot. Now you can take it as John Michael Terry has lost a step, or you can take it as Deshaun White is just good. I prefer to think that Deshaun White is just good. However, you gotta expect an older guy not to take that line down, and John Michael Terry is certainly in the mix to play and play a lot. But if you've seen Deshaun White's huddle film, you can see this guy has sideline to sideline speed, and no matter what position he plays at linebacker in Mike Stoops' scheme, you always got to think Deshaun White was going to be really, really good. It also sounds like Justin Broyles is coming along at safety, and between Justin Broyles and Robert Barnes, it seems to be a back and forth of who can one-up the other. For my part, I expect to see both of them play a lot. We're going to put a lot on who's the starter at Florida Atlantic, but it sounds like these guys are going to be battling to get playing time with each other for the duration of the year, which is kind of awesome because Robert Barnes is a guy that I like, that I've continued to like. Justin Broyles brings a different kind of energy to the defense and the secondary in general, and I would love to see both of those guys get significant playing time. Another freshman that is turning heads is Ronnie Perkins, but we already knew that Ronnie Perkins, U.S. Army All-American, like Deshaun White, was a game changer. This is a guy with a high motor, plays that strong side defensive end position really well. I expect him to set a hard edge on the outside and really look to contribute a lot this season. But a guy who's apparently turning a few heads is Charleston Rambo, who we all know has big play ability. And apparently the thing about Rambo is consistency. If he can get to where he can make big plays and be counted on to be the kind of wide receiver that OU needs on the outside, I think he could see more playing time as well. There's plenty more nuggets on the VIP board at OU Insider, and I encourage you to subscribe so you can check those out. Now let's get into what Lincoln Riley has had to say about his quarterback's play. Now Lincoln is not going so far as to say one guy has the lead over another. In fact, he's saying that camp and the competition has made both of those guys better quarterbacks. And yes, most of us believe Kyler Murray is going to be the starting quarterback when OU opens the season against Florida Atlantic on September 1st. But Austin Kendall is apparently at least keeping pace throughout camp. We saw what he did during the spring game. We know that he has the ability to be a great quarterback. It's about whether or not Kyler Murray has more of an ability to be a better quarterback than Austin Kendall. But I don't even think Lincoln Riley is looking at it that way. I think he's looking at it from a position of which one of these guys can I trust the most to not make bad plays. But he was careful to emphasize what they have been doing well, saying, quote, "They both played pretty well. We made a lot of big plays, a lot of great throws. Their command of what we're doing has definitely improved. The competition has absolutely made both of those guys better. We tried to emphasize, like we did last year with our guys, of really understanding that we have some new weapons at places and they have to get on the same page with them, understand them and what they do well and how they do things. They are improving quickly. It's been fun to watch. A lot of good plays. We still have a few too many negative plays. A lot of times being a good quarterback is cutting those down, and we have to do that." So I think Lincoln Riley more or less spelled it out for us and as quarterbacks. Yes, you have to be able to make plays. Yes, you have to be able to hit that shoebox from 50 yards away, but what you have to do really well is not make a bad play. Don't make a bad decision. When it's time to throw the ball away, throw the ball away. Do not force the ball into spots where you know you can't win. And I think as a quarterback, that's a hard thing to understand and a hard thing to wrap your head around, is to be more conservative in what you do, because part of what you do is throw the ball down the field. However, I think when you're talking about throwing picks, you're probably thinking more like an Austin Kendall. When you're talking about taking a sack or getting rid of the ball, and I think Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall are going to approach that differently, just because Austin Kendall is mobile, but he's not as mobile as Kyler Murray. Nobody's as mobile as Kyler Murray. And I think when you talk about Kyler Murray, you're going to talk about a guy who's going to have to go through all his reads, who's going to have to make the right read on a read option play. And there's more opportunities for him to be explosive, but there's also more opportunities for him to make a bad decision. And I think the guy who's most likely to win the job is the guy who's not going to make the bad decision. Now let's talk about what one rival football coach had to say about what Oklahoma could look like. And his unfiltered take comes from Sports Illustrated, who granted some college football coaches anonymity to get their true assessment of what some of the top football teams in the country could look like in 2018. And here's this coach's in its entirety. "It's going to be tough to replace linebacker Obo Okoronkwo. He was a freak. Still, junior outside linebacker Caleb Kelly is one of those guys who could dominate. Defensive end Amani Bledsoe does a terrific job in their forward technique stuff, lined up across from the offensive tackle, and guys like that are hard to find. On offense, they lost quarterback Baker Mayfield, but they've got 6'1" junior tailback Rodney Anderson, who is up there with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. Quarterback Kyler Murray is a great runner, and you've still got to worry about his arm. They're so consistent because of what they got up front. Murray will have weapons around him. At receiver, junior Marquise Brown is dangerous. As soon as you think you've broken Oklahoma's momentum, that dude goes over the top on a post or on a vertical. You've got to commit a lot of guys to the box to stop that good run game, so you get left in one-on-ones a lot. That's not a good business with Brown out there. I'll be interested to see how they replace Mackey Award winner Mark Andrews at tight end. Grant Calcaterra played a lot of snaps, so they might not have much drop-off. That's actually a pretty optimistic take coming from a rival coach. And it gives me more reason to be excited about this season, and I hope it does you too. Alright, that's it for me. Deuces.